All right, this week's video is going to be a little bit short based on the fact that while I was filming, I was unaware I was getting the VIN number of the car very clearly in some of the shots, and I tried editing it out, just didn't work out, so probably had to lose about 4 or 5 or 6 minutes of video of the top dash construction, but you'll get the gist of the whole thing when it's over. Okay, so this is what I'm doing now. The first thing I did was I took this piece of 035 thousandths wall steel. It's just stout enough to be good and rigid, and also it's just thin enough that it's easier to work with the shrinker stretcher. It doesn't become a nightmare. Anyway, I split it into 2 halves because it's, you know, trying to reach around this entire car with one band is ridiculous. Anyway, so I went and created 2 halves with a 5/8 upstand and a 7/8 flat here, and I used you can see these little tiny rises in the bed here, one in the center and 2 on either end, which is normally where you bolt down the dashboard, the top of the dashboard, if it's a stock B body. So I used those, and I just offset a little bit from the hole that's in there and put some Tech screws in. And now I'm going around and I'm putting a rim on the top that conforms to the top of the dashboard. This will be covered, just so you know. I have to work around here and over the top, and I have to create a pocket here for these. Just got these corners, which were the toughest part, to roll down, and the center over here, and then I'll be working my way in this area and that area and closing it down. Then I'll take the whole thing out and I'll finish welding it up off the car and away from any damage to the vinyl. I've been being very careful to cover absolutely everything up when I do tack weld it, because one little hot ball, it'll sink in there and you'll have a nice hole in the vinyl. Anyway, I've been going around using a straight edge from top to bottom. Now the windshield sits about a 1/4 inch up from the floor. There's a little the bottom of the gap here, so I've been just taking a straight edge. Now there's actually an arc to the windshield. It doesn't go straight up and down like this, to make sure that I've got clearance around these corners, because that's the tightest spot right over here in the corners. I'll be proceeding from here. Just in case you can't see it on camera, I had to do quite a bit of shaping here. This is rounded over because, you know, this really, you know, it's hitting hard on the subduct where that needs to go. So this had to kind of roll up from here. So I had to cut a little bit more material away from the pad in order to create a little bit of a taper here. So this is kind of rolled over in both of the corners. Then it transitions into a flatter piece going around here. Once the tension is relieved right about here, then it's free to go down pretty easily. Now I've got to start building the floor for the actual vent cover. So now that I've got this clearanced away that I want to, so that I've got a nice vertical drop, this is sitting in the duct flat where it needs to go. Now I've got a pattern which is smaller than obviously the rim here, that I'll be fitting it up to the bottom side of this, and eventually I'll be trimming it out to try and make a pattern for the floor that will close this out. And then I'll have to come in with a vertical piece for this wall here, and then another flange to come over and trim out the top. But first we're going to start with a pattern paper, stiff pattern paper, which is a lot easier to maneuver than a piece of sheet metal in this particular operation. All right, you can see I've got the simulated floor in there, made out of paper. It's about 1/8 of an inch bigger than the actual perimeter of the grill work on the back side here, and then of course it's just cut to compensate for this front piece over here. And so now I'm going to make it out of steel. Okay, here's the piece with the rear wall welded on. It's rough, obviously, because I have to dump this down there and to trace off the top. on the back to see how this has to get trimmed away now. So this will go in here, and there it is, fit down in there, just nice. And then I have to trace off the back of the top here so that it fits the contour of this pod, and I'll have to add a flange around here and across the top, and then down this side over here to close that all in. Get rid of my little cut there. So this is what it looks like trimmed off to the profile of the console here, or the gauge cluster cover. And so you can see I added a little bit of flange over here so that it would sit flat on top here like this is. And now I've got to come back in over here and basically come in like this with some metal to fill all this in. That's next. Okay, I've got a test fit here with the rubber gasket in here, and where I would have expected this to sweep around here real nice and gradual like this, it takes a little shape here. So I'm going to have to do a little tune up in here, fill this in this corner. This fits okay over here, which I was surprised by. That was a total guess. Also, this is the rubber flap that has the covers up the front fasteners, the front rim here. So it'll fit in there pretty good all the way across. On this other side over here, in the meantime, I found out that whenever you put your roof skins on these cars, you got to be careful. That side's perfect over there as far as that's concerned, but you can see this one here. Here's the A-post going straight up here, and then all of a sudden we got a little going this way. So if you run a straight edge straight up here, we have to take out about probably a good 1/4 of an inch of material right in this inside corner to be able to get the trim to go in there straight. Also, this little rim here that's hanging over here from the roof skin needs to be trimmed out also in order to let the rubber gasket tuck up into that corner properly. It just seems like the stamping is a little bit off on the roof to the where you got to be careful and watch out for that, because you can see this side here is straight up and down, and there's no issues here. But anyway, on to the next move. Alright, at the beginning of the last video I showed you this little sensor here that normally goes out in front of the dash through a plastic portion of the dash. On this car we're going to have to put it right dead center of the top of the foam part of the dash, which means that I had to drill a hole on the back side, on the underside I should say, and then I had to relieve some of the foam here in order for this to fit through. Also, I took a bit of 60,000 steel, so I had a nice stout bracket here that would set this in the hole in an offset fashion. So this will fit in here like this, and then I'll be careful just to drill gently through the plastic and rivet this up through the plastic, and hopefully not poke a hole through the vinyl on this side over here. Anyway, that's what I'm getting ready to do right now. Okay, one way to keep from drilling all the way through, I've got multi-layers here. I've got foam, I've got vinyl, and plastic is what I want to attach that bracket to right here. So what I've done here is I've just taken a dowel, drilled an 1/8 inch hole through it, slid my 1/8 inch bit through. Actually, it's a number 30 for the pop rivets. And this acts as a stop so that I don't go any deeper. Sometimes when you have a brand new drill bit, you get soft material like this, even though you try to hold it back, it'll get aggressive and it'll just pull itself through. So that's just a little safety step that I try to take from time to time. When I don't, it usually goes bad. Alright, just a minor detail. The foam that they use to seal the outer duct outlets to the inner ducts is it's pretty garbagey stuff. It's probably one of the most annoying things to have to deal with when pulling the ductwork apart, because it's sticky and the glue sticks to your fingers and it's a mess, and the foam itself is just crumbly
can see it's just crumbling off, and it leaves the adhesive strip there. So, you know, it's a small detail, but without that foam, you know, you get a lot of air bleed around this area here. So what I've done is I've just taken some, you know, just regular home center foam weather seal, cut it into a 1/4 inch strip here, and then just reapplied it to the edges here after I pulled all the tape off and all the foam off. Just makes for a better, quieter fit too, because this is plastic against plastic. So anyway, I mean, nothing to reinstall there. So I just wanted to show you what the side closure pieces look like when they're done and installed. You're not going to see this. Door is going to be closed up against the dashboard, so you won't see any of this, but I tried to blend it out as nice as possible anyway. And it's just some countersunk screws here right into the plastic, gently screwed in by hand, and these are some Tech screws holding it to the flange to the car. So just 3 and 3, and it's finished off with the same rocker guard material that's gives it a textured finish, and it's quite durable. So I just thought I'd show you that too. So I've got the dashboard back in. I've got it all wired back up. A little trick if you're working on these cars: if you don't have the shifter in and plugged in, you can't get the key out of the ignition. It locks it in the ignition. I learned that the hard way. Anyway, so I put everything back in because in the process of putting this dash pad back, it's flexible enough that I wanted to make sure that it wasn't distorted enough that all of these vents and the grill work around the gauges and this plastic trim piece. I want to make sure they all fit back into place. So I decided to just go ahead and reinstall everything back in. The front piece, I didn't bother to drag you through all of the body work that you know, involved just a bunch of sanding, putty, primer, filler, and then a top coat of what I have is a it's a rocker guard, and the trick to this is just you know, light coats. Build it up a little at a time so it doesn't have any shiny spots in it, but it's meant for outside underneath the car, so it's pretty tough stuff. It's good application, and it just gives it a textured look. It's not meant to match the vinyl exactly, but you know, it's meant to make it look like a trim piece. Anyway, as you can see, I have the VIN number taped over for filming right now, but you can see I've got a little window cut in here. And I had some footage of how I fit that in there. No big deal, but the VIN number was exposed on that footage, so I decided to delete that footage. There's a plate that's under the Challenger windshield that has to be cut out, that has the VIN on it, and it has a kind of a dish to it. It's recessed, so I had to take and carve out a section of the vinyl, this cover here, so that I could set it down so that it would be flush with the vinyl before I made my upper flange here and finished that all out. So what I did was I epoxied it into place, and once it was dry, then it's part of this dash cover now. So I just thought I would show you what that all looks like from here. I'm probably gonna go on to hanging the doors because I have to see if there's any interference now, because this dash side sticks out on both sides. I'll be relieving the door, not the dash pad, if that's the case. And I also have to start working on the latch mechanisms, and also have to get the doors on to see where they're going to land so that I could start seeing how my front end's going to fit on this car. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing next. And I appreciate you watching. Thanks a lot.